extraordinary radiation, rarefication, serial sensation, ionizer,
Welcome to a Neon Jazz interview with one of the finest singers in jazz today and with some of the best jazz stories that you will ever hear. During the course of this revealing interview, Miss Deborah Brown talks about a career that has spanned decades, taking her all over the world to deliver her stellar voice backed by some of the best musicians in the world. From her base in Kansas City, Missouri, she talked to Neon Jazz about working with Side Hampton, her humble beginnings in the famed Kansas City jazz scene, along with many more surprises. Dig it. You have a very interesting story, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this will unravel as we speak. So you were born and raised in Kansas City. What was that like, being in a jazz town?
Well, it was wonderful. We had a lot of opportunities. I went to half the time I went to a place called Carnes Theater, which was probably down, like in the 8th Street, and they had a school there that allowed young people to go, and actually we got school credit in the 70s for that. And people like Whoopi Goldberg and, people like that, they had that. We had a lot of things going on in Kansas City at that time. So that's how I kind of got my theater background. And then I decided I learned how to sing jazz music with Eddie Baker's New Breed Band. They had a big band, and I had to wait all night long to perform in the basement with the band. And I started singing, and they kind of liked it. So they were kind of excited, and I got a chance to sing with them for quite a number of years, but just little, places here and there. So it was really nice. I played with Sonny Kenner. That's how I learned how to sing the blues. Frank Smith, he had a trio. Mike Ning had his trio. There were a lot of places to play. Betty and Milt Abel, they were around. It was really a swinging era.
So it sounds like you were baptized by fire, being around all of these folks like Sonny Kenner and all of these that kind of got you, ingrained in the music scene.
They were so nice. Everybody was so nice. Everybody wanted to share and teach you things, and they were encouraging. It was really nice.
Maybe that's the reason why the jazz organism is so strong, because people do have that spirit of lending and helping, and it sounds like a really nice community.
Oh, it's not nice anymore.
Oh, is that right?
Not saying that, but well, I mean, it's kind of cutthroat now because money's tight. You know how it is when you got the fish, and the pond is drying up, and everybody's on top of everybody else. So yeah, but there is a lot of more education now. There was no education when I went to UMKC. They had 3 jazz musicians there. And they had long hair, and they were going around trying to look cool, and they weren't. But everybody else had to learn how to play classical music. That's how we were trained.
Sure.
There was no jazz in the university at that time.
Right.
So, I mean, the music that you learned, jazz, if you wanted to learn jazz or blues, you had to go to the clubs and go to the places where the musicians were. So now everybody gets an education, and now there's a lot of people out there working. So, I mean, the pond is getting muddy.
But when
no, it's not. I don't think it's not a lot of sharing going on, and there's not a lot of people that want to learn right now, especially in Kansas City, because everybody's trying to make a living.
Right.
That's how I look at it.
So
I don't mean to be negative, but that's just kind of how it is to me.
No, I understand, and I get that feeling that back in the day, so to speak, maybe 2 or 3 decades back, you did actually have to go into a club to learn how to do it, whereas now you can go to a university and get that education.
Right, and we did stuff for free because we got paid. Wow, really? We get money? I mean, it was kind of like that in those days. I mean, the musicians that I was playing with, it was all about the money. But I mean, for people that were coming up like me, boy, if you slipped me a few bucks, I was like, really? I make money? We had to pay for $120 down at the top of the Hilton. That was my first kind of professional job where I actually had a band.
Sure.
$120 a week.
Wow.
Is what I made.
Wow, that's crazy.
That was good money in those days.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Let me
and then I hired some musicians, and then I got I got the to manage all the money and pay the musicians. I've always wanted to pay the musicians a fair wage. So,
Sure.
And one of the first ones I hired down there was Everett DeVan.
Uh-huh. That's great. Let me go.
Hello?
I'm here. I want to go back to the beginning of things when you started singing. Talk to me about your family. How did they influence you getting into music, and what kind of influence have they played on you?
Well, I had a very clever mother. We came from lower middle class family. And my mom and my dad worked, and in order to keep us 5 kids out of trouble, my mother had to be very clever in how she promoted the things that we were interested in to make sure that we were not running around on the streets. And what she did for me was she heard that at a very young age I was interested in music and singing, and she had us, she had us singing in a choir. She was a classical musician, so she was really one of the finest organ players I've ever heard. But she plays classical music, and so we were singing, Handel's Messiah. Just me and my sisters. We were like the Pointer Sisters in those days, but my other 2 sisters, they didn't take singing that seriously. But so it was a very musical family. Whenever anybody came to the house, I had to sing a song. My sister was really great at dancing, so she had to dance, and it was that kind of thing. That's what people did in those days. I'm not that old, by the way. It sounds like I am, but that's just what people did. That's how I came up. And then my mother kind of thrust me in a direction where I could get more serious learning, and so she put me in a camp where there were very, very talented singers and musicians, people that are around today, and we were all friends, and we were kids, and we were up there by we used to play at this place by where they have the gardens out on Warnell Road. There's a school there, a very nice school there, and we would sleep over on Thursday nights, a whole school of children, and we got trained by people at the Midland Theater. The Lyric Theater Company were our teachers, our singing teachers, and the musicians were just fantastic musicians, and we had choirs, and it was really a very interesting upbringing. So my mother made sure that I got into programs like this, and there were a lot more programs for kids at that age than maybe there are now. I don't have children, but it just seems like there was a lot of things for us to do. So my father loved to play the trombone, and he went to Lincoln University. He graduated from there, and jazz music was kind of looked down on in the black community, and so he got his education, and he went into public service. And he was a parole officer here in Kansas City, and started the first drug rehabilitation program, drug and alcohol. Halfway House is what he started here. Anyway, so he was listening to jazz music every Saturday when he had his day off in the basement. And he'd play, he was a very experimental man. He wanted to hear everything. Mm-hmm. We had Jimi Hendrix, and, you name it, he had it. He had Miles. He loved jazz, Miles and Dizzy. He loved J.J. Johnson because, of course, he was a trombone player. And, he loved Jerry Mulligan. You name it, he had all the records. And I heard all of that growing up. But we're listening to Motown, and we're listening to everything on the radio, and then my mother is practicing Bach and Chopin and all the classical great artists, and she's trying to learn jazz with Andre Previn. Learn how to play jazz. Classical musicians learn how to play jazz through Andre Previn's books. So our house was full of music. It was a really great upbringing in that way.
Yeah.
And I was allowed to play the piano. We had a grand piano, and I was allowed to fool around on the piano for hours on end. Even at my high school, we had a choir and had a great a great school director there who helped me to get into the university early. So I went to UMKC, before I graduated from high school. They had singing department there, and I had the singing lessons there. And we had a teacher that came from the Metropolitan Opera in my first year, and I auditioned, and I was able to get into her class. So I was on my road to being an opera singer. That was what I was slated to be.
Interesting. So, speaking of your career, you've been all over the world. You've recorded, it says, 11 albums as a leader, many as a guest soloist. And I noticed that Side Hampton, author James Baldwin, there's a lot of names that pop out here. When you think about your career up to this point, what really stands out? What was it like to learn from people like that?
Oh, it's funny when you go through that, it's awesome. But when you stop and you look back, it's even more awesome learning experience. I mean, after it's all said and done, I would say that Johnny Griffin was my mentor. Whenever I would bring music to him, he's like, "Oh, let me hear you sing the changes on that." I mean, who else? I mean, that was awesome. He was great. He was a great mentor, and I loved the way he formed his music. Having worked with Monk for so many years, and the Little Giant, as they call him over there, and the way that his writing style. I sing a lot of his music. Helped me analyze how he was he thinks backwards. Anyway, it's different. A simplistic way of saying is that he writes backwards. Mm-hmm. He doesn't write forward; he writes backwards. So that was a wonderful experience. But when I think about him, and I had made a record with him and Benny Bailey, Ed Thigpen, who used to play with Oscar Peterson Trio, Red Mitchell, who played with Sarah and Billie Holiday. I mean, all these guys in the studio together, and it was wonderful, absolutely. And then I was thinking about Dorothy Dunnigan was a great pianist, too. She could play absolutely everything, from boogie-woogie to, the classical greats, and she was wild. And she would look at me, and I would go to the dressing room after the concert, because I played in a lot of festivals, and she would be in the dressing room, and I would say, "Well, the band. What do you think about these guys? These are like local guys." And she would look at me and just shake her head like, "Nah." She was really tough on musicians, but there was a few that she really, really liked that she got along with, and she got along with Red Mitchell very well. And she and Red were in New York, and they were auditioning drummers for the upcoming date. And she looks at this young man coming in, and he's got all these drums, and he's just playing all over the place trying to tune his drums. Meanwhile, Dorothy is looking at Red Mitchell, and she's like shaking her head, no way. And she walks out. And then the drummer looks at Red and said, "Hey, what's going on? When is the audition?" He says, "Oh, you've already had the audition. It's over." Things like that. She was a very, very funny woman.
That's nice.
So when I think about people like that, James Baldwin, that was a highlight, too, because he was a fantastic, he's a fantastic writer, but really his interviews were extremely interesting. And even though he'd have a whole bottle of fifth of scotch, he was so lucid, and his thoughts and his words, the way he used words, was masterful.
Absolutely.
I felt so sorry for him because, he was just basically telling the truth about society, but nobody wants to hear that. So he had a lot of death threats on him, and that was really sad to see that he was kind of drowning in his sorrows because he just wanted to be accepted.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was kind of sad, but that was the only record that he ever made with his voice, and he always wanted to sing. So he sang Amazing Grace. And he'd been drinking pretty heavily that day, and he sang it all by himself a cappella, and Bob Stewart was playing the tuba, and every chorus was maybe 3 steps lower and several paces slower. So it was really very out and very unusual, and Bob got around that music and just played right along with him, and it turned out to be really amazing to me. Anyway, and then just to hear his voice reciting his poetry on record was really nice. It was a really great record.
Yeah. So
working, and recently I worked with Lee Konitz a couple of years ago, standing next to him and playing one of my favorite songs, Publicity, Miles Davis tune, because he was on that record, Birth of the Cool.
Yeah.
And it was just wonderful to play with him and feel the timing, and I really learned so much. All these guys have a feeling when you're on stage with them that you can't really put your finger on, but it's the way they played together, and the fact that I was kind of on the cusp of those guys going out, because most of them are dead now, but just the way they felt when you played with them was very extraordinary. It doesn't, it's something that can't really quite be duplicated. And I would say even that way is with Bobby Watson. Bobby Watson also has that Kansas City lilt and the way that he plays, because he has also been with so many guys that have played together. When you play with people in the same era, they have a way of playing that no other generation or era will be able to duplicate, because something new has happened. So it makes it really interesting to be straddle two eras.
Yeah, so
you want me to go on and on.
No. What I wanted to
I could talk all night.
No, I love your stories. That's what I was really wanting to
these
hear.
Are wonderful.
Yeah, these are wonderful stories. But what I've always heard when you get next to greatness like that is that there's a fierce intensity, and it is hard to put your finger on it, but it's totally all inspiring to be around that.
Well, what that is these guys play with rhythm sections, because no record company is really financing your whole group. Norman Granz was one of those rare guys that got the opportunity for people to play together that love to play together, self-contained groups. But after that era happened, see, you weren't with your group that often, unless you were making a great career, good record. Mostly these guys have to go and play with millions of different rhythm sections all over the place. Okay, so what happens? Are you going to be, and some of them are really bad. Some of them are great, but some of them, and I would say most, were really bad. Mm-hmm. So what Johnny Griffin taught me was, no matter what you hear, you got to be yourself, and you have to play, and play as strongly as you can, and just do your thing, and don't worry about the train wrecks happening behind you. And that determination to get your art out there and just be out there. I mean, today a lot of groups would cringe to hear me say things like that, but if that's the way you have to make your living, and you can play your music that way, and you have originals that you have to present to the audience, you'll pretty much play with anybody in any circumstances in order for your music to be heard. And that's kind of how it was in those days, even though it's a little different now, and people suffer in order for their entire self-contained group to be on stage. It doesn't happen that often. Not very many musicians even today have the kind of financial backing in order to fly to Europe, get on a train or a car or a plane, and take 5 or 6 guys, and go from place to place. Even though Europe is is small and it's easy to do that, it does cost quite a bit of money with the fuel. Gas over there, we complain about $3-4 a gallon. They're up to almost $8 a gallon now, and that's really difficult touring money.
Absolutely.
But so that when you get next to them, oh yeah, they know what they're doing, and you better have your thing together.
Yeah.
And that determination. But basically, when you get to that level and you're playing with somebody like that, it is so much fun. You're learning so much. It makes you rise up to what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
You always try to play with someone better than you are, so that you can learn more and your craft grows. I learned that actually from a very strange guy, Billy Mitchell. Billy Mitchell played with Duke Ellington's orchestra, and a lot of people probably don't know him, but I did a tour with him, and it was just awesome to play with this guy, and he plays saxophone, and it was, the ease at which he handled his instrument, and it was so much fun. It was so many different quotes that that he did, and it just inspired me to do things, and we just fed off of each other, and it was just really a lot of fun.
That's wonderful.
So
speaking,
it is nice because you feel the creativity, and it's nothing like it.
Absolutely. So speaking of traveling, it says that you had a 12-year residency in Europe and you've been all over the world. What places have stuck out to you as the most memorable, or you spent the most quality time there?
Well, because music is really my bent. I'm thinking of music places, and one of the finest places I've really enjoyed is Holland. The level of musicianship is very high, and yet the musicians are very humble, and that's a wonderful, because you can play with the greatest musician in the world, but if they're not humble, it's just a pain, and it's just a real pain to play with them. So I've been surrounded myself with very nice musicians and just high quality musicians. And not only that, it's just that, of course, Chet Baker, lived quite a long time there. He died there. Ben Webster was there. You name it. There's, jazz greats were there. And there's a reason why jazz people are there. Also Copenhagen, but for me, actually, it was a place where a lot of, expats were, musicians were there. Paris, but Paris is not very interesting to me. But Sweden also is a really beautiful place. It's a lovely place there because I did a festival last year with Quincy Jones, was our grandfather of the jazz festival, and we got a chance to eat together. And he talked about his everything that's in his book is what he talks about, all the times and all the people, and and he's made that record called Have You Met recording Have You Met Benny Bailey? That's a song that he wrote for Benny Bailey, and I played with Benny Bailey, and he was the greatest musician in the world, and he lived up there for quite a while. Those are really memorable places for me. London was a very interesting place. Interesting because of Pete King, and at the famous place I played there several times. What's the name of that club in London that I played? Ronnie Scott's. Uh-huh. Ronnie Scott. I knew Ronnie Scott. Ronnie Scott was a really funny man. He made a nice book too. But all of those musicians there, and what was nice about that was I got a chance to play opposite Joshua Redman. It's nice to be able to play with these different musicians because you have to play two shows. There's always two acts that are there, so you get a chance to to have fun. So Joshua Redman, who was quite an intense young man, very intelligent and whatever. Christian McBride, very funny, very funny guy. And then I also play opposite one of my favorite musicians who died not too long ago. And he sang Moody's Mood. Is amazing, James Moody. And that was fantastic, week or two at Ronnie Scott's. So that's a very memorable place because they love jazz. They have the best of the jazz musicians there, the best of the jazz musicians there. And, and they record all of the most fantastic musicians America's ever produced, even people around the world as well. Chucho Valdez, had a nice interview with him on BBC. That was a beautiful scene where he's playing, just beautiful music from every era. He can play like anybody, but he plays like himself. Anyway, I feel like I'm rambling.
No, these stories are intriguing. I love it.
They also did a fantastic program on James Baldwin, which I wish they would show those kind of things here in America, so America could really learn about our past.
Yeah.
Because America doesn't really know about our past. The Internet does make it accessible, but they had some fantastic things, fantastic archives at the BBC on jazz musicians, all kind of jazz musicians. from Dizzy Gillespie to, like I say, James Baldwin or Chucho Valdez or some very memorable programs.
Yeah, the BBC is
so
amazing.
Those are the places. And Russia. Russia's a fantastic place. Spain. Spain is really an awesome place. They have great festivals there. Barcelona, it's a fantastic place. As a matter of fact, I played in Spain opposite Mulgrew Miller, who just passed this week, which was really sad for me to hear. I also played with him in Switzerland, which was really beautiful.
Yeah.
But he was a beautiful player. Anyway.
No.
So there's a lot of places that have really great music.
Absolutely. So talk to me about Kansas City.
That stand out in my head.
Sure. What about Kansas City? Where are you playing these days here in Kansas City, and what venues do you like the best here?
I'm really excited. From the moment that they probably put the shovel in the dirt at the Kauffman Center is where I really wanted to play. And I get the opportunity to play there on September the 20th, and with a big band. And I'm so excited because I play with a lot of big bands, and this is a good big band. So that is something I'm really looking forward to. And in Kansas City, I played the Blue Room a lot. The Blue Room is really modern, and it reminds me of the Bim House over in Amsterdam. And the Bim House in Amsterdam is where I go and break new music. And because it's a very experimental audience, they absorb well and they listen like with a pin drop. And so I break anything new there. So Kansas City, the Blue Room has the potential for that. It's not reached that yet, but it does have the potential for that. Mm-hmm. And it's just it's an awful lot of fun to play there because you can really get the audience going and yet you can be as complicated as you want to, and you can be as simple and down home as you want to, and they absorb it. It's a great audience, and I like that. I think it was difficult. The Jardines place was very difficult for me. I had a hard time relating to the lady that booked the club, and I really wanted to make that kind of a place where I wanted to be, but because, we just couldn't, I do things on maybe much too emotional level, but I didn't feel comfortable there. But it wasn't. It was kind of a nice place to connect with an audience.
Right.
And I thought about opening up that club, but I don't know. That's too complicated. But I would love kind of have a place called Deborah's without it being Deborah's.
That'd be wonderful.
But I don't know how to run a bar. Isn't that strange?
Yeah.
I do know how to make drinks, but I don't know how to run a bar. And I thought, okay, if you want, the old joke they say, well, how do you, how do you get a musician to be a millionaire? You give him $2 million.
There you go.
So I thought it might be best for me not to go into the club business.
Absolutely.
But other places I like to play in Kansas City, those are really the only two, actually. I hope I'm not offending anybody by not mentioning other places I haven't been.
Sure. No.
And I actually haven't been in Kansas City too much. When I come here, I'm resting. I just rest here.
Well, that's good.
And then I just go out on the road. And I went out on the road every month last year. I took about 12 trips around the world and to Europe and stuff. And I'm just relaxing this half of and I start again in the summer.
Wonderful. So let me ask you this: who are your jazz heroes? Who do you admire the most?
Well, it's a long list of people because any kind of really good music is music that I really love. I know EST is a group from Sweden, and Ivan Svensson died three years ago. And I was really looking forward because I was on the festival in Sweden, and they died. I think they were the most innovative band, and I've heard bands get close to what they're doing, but they were the most innovative jazz band that I've heard so far, EST. And and I love trumpet, and I love saxophone. So I love Bobby. Bobby's a beautiful player. We did some concerts in Spain this year, and just fantastic. And I love people that are gone, though. I really do. I love my Johnny Griffin and my Benny Bailey. I love them. And there's a lot of people I love. One of my favorites is Horace Parlan because of the feeling that I get with him. Horace Parlan played with Charlie Mingus, but he's made a lot of records with Archie Shepp. But he makes beautiful records by himself. Beautiful. It's lovely kind of music, and swinging and hard blues. I could make a whole list for you because there's so many people I love. Love Nancy King. She's one of my favorite singers. She's a beautiful singer. Nancy Moreno. I love Diane Reeves. She's a beautiful singer. And I love some pop singers too. You know, right now I'm listening to Justin Timberlake's new record. I love that music. It's really nice.
Yeah.
And I like a lot of European acts that maybe nobody's heard of, but I like my band. I love all the people that I work with, and they're just excellent. I have different. I guess what people would say is I have different teams around the world that organize concerts for me, and I lend them my name so they can get the concerts easier. And we create music and make records. And I've got a team in Holland, and they're great musicians. Rob Van Bovel, great pianist. I've got a team in Sweden, Andreas Peterson, who's a great guitarist, and just everybody on every chair is beautiful. I've got a nice team in Russia, Yakov Okun, beautiful player that I think is doing some things here in the United States with what's that record company? That Dutch record company, that American record company that has all the Dutch people on it. Oh no, okay. Anyway, in any event, and Joris was a part of that. Joris Tapo was a part of that. In any event, I have another team that's in London and Spain. Stephen Keogh, lovely guy, lovely drummer, Irish drummer. So I don't know. I'm so absorbed in their music, I barely really get a chance to get toward others. So those are some of my top favorites, and I like a lot of different kind of music. Love Barbra Streisand. I think Barbra Streisand is a great singer.
Yeah.
And I can't think of anything. I like Olene Adams. She's a great singer. I like a lot of different people.
That's wonderful.
But for my jazz, I tend to like hard bebop. I love Charlie Parker and Hot Lips Page.
Yeah.
People like that from the past. I love that kind of music. Anyway, so that's some of my, just skimming the surface. It goes much deeper than that.
Sure. So let's get back to you. I want to know what some of your short and long-term plans. You talked about kind of resting in KC before going on the road. What plans for albums and touring and festivals do you have coming up?
Well, I have a record that's probably I have a record that I have released recently, and that's called All Too Soon, and that was a project when the Dutch band, my team, came here to Kansas City, and Bobby Watson was on that, and that's a record that did pretty well, and got a lot of recognition around the United States because it was played on the radio station, jazz radio stations. So I'm really proud of that All Too Soon record. And the next project is not really a project, but it's just a record that's going to be released because I've worked with an orchestra called the Concertgebouw Orchestra, and they have a lot of guest artists. And one of the projects they did was with me and Lee Konitz. So they're going to release that, which I'm really excited about. So I've got several songs on that and playing with him, and it was just very special, and the arrangements are very special. And of course, I've got this wonderful concert coming up in Brownsville, just right up the road, past St. Joe. Did I say that right? Oh, anyway, Brownsville, don't blink because you'll miss it. But it's a wonderful venue. A lot of people go there, artists from New York, classical music, theater music. They have jazz artists that go there. A lot of jazz musicians here in town know about it. But it's really a sweet little place, and you stay there for the weekend and kind of hang out in this mansion, and and you eat well, and you play music in a little state-of-the-art room that probably doesn't hold more than 50 people, and it's just a wonderful weekend. So that's Brownsville, and that's in Nebraska, Brownsville, Nebraska.
Yeah.
And then I've got my, my concert on September the 20th with the orchestra, and I'm going. Then I have some concerts I have to do in Sweden with Andreas Peterson. That's the other team that I have in Sweden. And then I'm going to Thailand this year in the fall and work with my Dutch band there. We're opening up the Asian market, and so on and so forth. So that's what we're doing. Plans for the future: record. So I have a plan right now to record again. I was supposed to do it this spring, but I was so tired from all the traveling last year that I couldn't get my brain working. So I'm working on it now, a new record, and I don't want to. I don't want to say what it is right now.
Okay.
But it's a theme record, and it's a record that nobody's ever done before, and I'm really excited about it. And it's going to be a mixture of American artist and Dutch artist.
Wonderful.
So that's my future plan.
Wonderful.
And I'm just opening up the American market a little bit more. I'm really getting out in America quite a lot more than I have, doing mostly big band music, as a matter of fact. In Washington State, like in Spokane and Seattle, and doing Knoxville, Tennessee over in the east, Atlanta. Going to try to get to New York this year. I don't go there very often because I don't know why.
Do you like New York?
Those are my plans, and I'm excited about that.
Do you like playing in New York?
I'm not playing. I don't have anything planned, but I know I have to be there this year.
I gotcha.
Yes.
But have you been there before and performed? Is it a place you like?
I've never. I played at the Blue Room with Roger Kellaway and Jay Leonhardt, and I was reunited with Jay Leonhardt in a jazz festival just a few months ago. But I don't have any bookings there right now. Do you hear that?
It sounds like
somebody's trying to call me.
Yeah, it sounds like someone's trying to beep through.
Oh yeah, but
well, I got a few more questions for you, and I'll let you free.
Oh no, that's okay. Don't worry about that.
Oh no, that's fine. I had a few more here, and my next question is: you have a very storied life, very rich tapestry of history here, and I got a question for you. At this point in your life, is there anything that you would have done differently?
No, I never look back. I always look forward. Oh, no, I've had my life has been, I can say, I love my life. It's been frustrating when it was happening because of all the things I had to go through to break those barriers and boundaries that I needed to break in order to be able to become the kind of artist that I want so I could listen to myself. Yeah, that was frustrating, but in a lot of hours, just working and practicing, and the records that I had to make, all the records I had to make in a day or two, oh yeah. But I wouldn't change a thing. It's been really exciting and really a lot of fun. So no, my goodness, there would be nothing that I would change. Nah. Because what happens is when people say things like that, you have to be at a point mentally in order to be able to absorb good things and bad things too. You have to be at a point mentally to be accepting of yourself and others. And if it's too soon, it doesn't work. If it's too late, you've got regrets. But I think everything happens in the order that it should happen. There probably were a lot of opportunities or things that I maybe didn't move on, but I have really enjoyed my life, and I've lived kind of this strange. It's difficult to be in this business for any length of time, and I've been in this business almost 40 years, and I've always had work. I can't complain. I've always had work, and it's kind of unusual when people call and say, hey, can you give me a gig? I'm like, no, you have to live your own life and get your own gigs, because it's not like that. I can give you some phone numbers. You can call these people. I can go out there until I'm blue in the face, but life doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Life just doesn't work that way. You got to get out, live, and then your path will be something completely different. No two jazz musicians, I believe, have the same path. So that's kind of the realizing that after so many years and accepting where you are in the jazz, life and the jazz hierarchy or whatever, wherever the jazz is. Mm-hmm. I just feel like, hey, look, I'm just trying to get the next gig. That's
Sure.
how I look at it.
So in 40 years in the business, and one that is well-versed in storytelling, tell me the best story that you've ever encountered or experienced on the road.
Oh, the best? I'll tell you a story. How's that?
That's wonderful.
I don't know about the best. Because this is the only, there's a lot of things that don't come to mind, but I got a phone call that Archie Shepp needed to have a singer at a jazz festival in a place called Leverkusen in Germany. So I love Archie Shepp. I always go see him with Horace Parlan because I love Horace. And I like the band. It's always an adventure. So I thought, okay, great, I'll play with the band. So I get it, and I was really tired, but I took it anyway. And then we drove all the way over to Germany, and we got there just in time to have a little rehearsal. And rehearsing, and with his band doesn't even make sense, but we did it anyway. And so he's telling me when I'm supposed to come on. He says, now when you hear this line, and it goes like this, when you hear this line, shoo-doo-doo-doo-bop-bop, he says, now I'm going to do that a couple of times. When you hear that, you know that the song is going to end and you're on next. I said, okay, that's fine. And so we're going to hit it with this song. We're going to do this blues number, and you just do some blues things. I'm like, okay, whatever. And so he says, and then you're going to hit it with this nice, beautiful ballad, and then we're going to do this, and we're going to do that and that and then. Okay, fine. Everybody rehearses. We get on stage, and Archie plays this blowing saxophone solo for like 45 minutes. I mean, okay, maybe I'm exaggerating, 43 minutes. And I'm going, okay, am I ever going to go on? So finally he gets to this place where he's going, and nobody realizes that he's trying to stop the tune. So it goes on for like another 20 minutes. I mean, he was up there for almost an hour. Finally they stopped. They were so tired. When I get up there, we do the blues thing. So we stop, and this blues thing was okay. And he says, "Okay, now here you have. Now you do your song." So I start my song. Love is funny, or is sad, or it's quiet, or it's mad. And I just keep going, and it just starts getting slower and slower. By the end of one course, before the piano solo ever comes on, the song is like at a snail's pace, and I turn around and I think the drummer's asleep because I don't know. It was Eddie. I think this guy's name was Eddie Moore, but he's dead now. But he was so tired that the song just came out long, and then Archie jumps on the stage and he says, "And ladies and gentlemen, that's the show." We did 2 songs. I guess 3 if you count the blues. So
That's a great story.
that's my experience singing with Archie Shepp, and I just thought that was hilarious.
That's
I mean,
awesome.
at the time, it was like really very, very stressful, and I was trying every trick in the book in order to make this ballad not seem like it was going slower and slower and slower without, turning around like the typical singer, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. So
That's a great story.
that was I guess that's one of my little horror stories. I've got lots of those.
Oh, I'm sure.
But that's the one that comes to mind.
That's wonderful. So what was it like to give your autograph out for the first time?
Oh, it's just kind of a surprise. You want my signature? And I kept thinking to myself, what could you possibly do with my signature? What is that? I think autographs are really weird.
Yeah.
But, I thought, but now, but how I look at autographs now is, this is my way of connecting with the audience. I love signing my CDs or signing things for people. I ask them about their life and, where they come from, and I hear some remarkable stories. So it really is very interesting to have that communication, and I like to stay afterwards for long periods of time and talk with people.
Great. So what's the last album or song that you listened to before this interview?
Let's see. What I have on now is before this interview, I was looking at Jeopardy. No, Wheel of Fortune. That's actually what I was looking at TV. Music-wise, I purposely didn't listen to music today, but it was on purpose. But listening to Dexter Gordon right now.
Wonderful.
Cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Deborah, you're a fascinating person. I had no idea where the road was going to go, and it winded and went. And
I hope it wasn't too boring.
No.
It's going on and on. But
this was
thank
wonderful.
Thank you for the interview. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I love all of you jazz musicians, and if I can just get a little bit more exposure and get your music out there, it's kind of like your father with the Saturday morning church, so to speak, where he introduced you to the music. I feel like that's very vital for people.
I forgot to add that it was kind of I was jealous of the music, so it delayed my jazz education because it took my dad away from me.
Yeah.
Sure.
Absolutely. Well, one more thing, speaking of your father, that I wanted to ask, based on the fact that he was a trombonist, was there something special about working with Side Hampton?
Yes, that was very special. That was another funny story. Yes, that was very special because Side is such a giving person. We did our record. I did my first record with him. I did my first recording in Belgium was with Side Hampton, and it was a 12-hour recording session. You get a little punch drunk after 4.
Yeah, you do.
And we stretched that out to 12.
Wow.
Okay, on the 12th hour, we were all so tired, and we were jumping at the Savoy, and I had this, like, a little special course and everything I was doing. I don't know where it came from, but it's just when you're next to people like that, then your imagination just flows. You're just very open. But when it came to the solo, we thought, oh, who's going to take a solo? And everybody was like, oh, I'm so tired. Is it possible? And then the drummer, who was the weakest part of the group, said, oh, I'll take a solo. And we went, oh, no, it's 12 hours. You better not mess it up. Anyway, so and it was in a studio where we couldn't see each other. So we get to the end. We get to the solo, and the drummer is taking the solo, and his time is so messed up. You don't even know where. You can't even feel one because he's like doing the drum solo of the century in his mind, and we all came in at the same time and kept it together until the end of the song. And we were just like, unbelievable, we did it. It's over. It's finished. And the drummer goes, Oh, I think I need to do that again. We thought, no way, you're not doing it. You're going to live with it. Well, the funny part is, because he's a friend of mine, and we got him off the drums. He's a great singer and very, very successful. He plays with Angela Kidjo. Anyway, he's a fantastic musician. And so he came to the house, he came to the apartment, and he's sitting there with my husband and I, and he's saying, I don't know what I did on that drum solo. And we just looked at each other and laughed. He said, how did I make it through that drum solo? I said, we were so tired that we were just glad it was over.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just thought that was...
That's a great story.
Anyway, but Slide was very giving. Never, ever. He's such a cool guy. After 12 hours, with an old seasoned professional musician like that, he was a gentleman the entire time. Never said any bad word. At least I don't remember him, saying anything wrong. He was nothing but encouraging, and it was just amazing, his patience with us. So, he's an extraordinary person. Extraordinary.
That's great.
And very musical. And he has got this following of people that, that just want everything that he's ever recorded. I feel very privileged to have recorded with him.
So speaking of world-class musicians, of all the musicians that you've met, this is my final question for you.
Got these really big questions.
Yes. Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yes. Who's the only?
So, if you could go back in a jazz time machine or a music time machine and meet one musician that you have never met, who would it be, and what would you talk to them about?
Oh, Benny Moten.
Yeah.
Benny Moten.
Cool.
From Kansas City?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Benny Moten. I want to talk to him.
About what?
That was, Kansas City was the place to be. Kansas City was the place to be. I've talked with a lot of people, I've played opposite of, many of those Kansas City Six guys, and, I met them, but one person I didn't meet was Benny Moten. He was dead long ago. But I would love to meet him and speak with him, yeah.
Wonderful.
Because there's so many musicians that came and went through his band, and the club scene was really remarkable in those days. My dad gave me an idea about what it was like in those days on 12th and Vine. He said it was like a few miles of jazz clubs, and it was just great imagination and fun, and it was an exciting time in Kansas City at that time. And I just would like to know what the halls were like at those times, and the syncopation of their music at that time was completely opposite of what we play today. What was the climate like for him? Yeah, that's who I'm looking forward to meeting.
What a great way to end the interview. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. This was a delight.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, Deborah.
And tell your crew thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Y'all take care
You've been
now.
a delight.
You too. Have a great night.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to yet another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest musicians giving you that jazz. And a huge thank you to Miss Deborah Brown for her time and insight into her talented craft, along with my studio engineer, Mr. John Christopher. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store, or visit the Neon Jazz blog at theneonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the music, my friends.
Raise a new notion to activate my emotion for you.
Neon Jazz.